You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
So we did it. Harrison Ford has joined the Marvel Universe. Not sure how I feel about that. I mean, he's a great actor. But I'm looking forward to the press tour where somebody says, well, how do you feel about taking over the role from William Hurt? And he says, William Hurt did this? When? You know, or how do you feel about the Hulk or some question like that? He goes, what's a Hulk? You know, just have a feeling that it's going to be fun to see him on the press tour. But also, if you think about it, this is the smartest thing Marvel has done, because they have guys like Tom Holland and Mark Ruffalo who keep giving away secrets, who keep spoiling things. You're not going to get anything out of Harrison Ford because he doesn't know it and he doesn't care to know it. You could put him on every talk show and you're not going to lose. Nothing is going to come out at all. He might not even remember the name of the movie. Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Everyone, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We are joined by producer Jay, who's on the board, returning to us after 4 days without the internet, which would have driven me absolutely insane. So the fact that Jay made it through alive, I'm pretty impressed by. Hey to Triple B, to Cool, and to Ed. Glad to see you guys are here. Please remember to hit that thumbs up button, that like button, and all that stuff. So we are going to talk about some of the great news. We're going to talk about the She-Hulk finale. And I thought I'd give you a little bit of a dive into the character introduced in the She-Hulk finale for those of you not familiar. So that is the plan for today. Tomorrow we will talk about the finale of Rings of Power. And hopefully talk a little bit about Quantum Leap. And then on Thursday, we'll talk about the latest Andor, which hasn't dropped yet. And I'll try to do a primer for Black Adam for anybody who is not familiar with the character as the film opens up this weekend. I believe Ed wanted to know a little bit more about him going into the movie. So I will line that up for Thursday. And with all luck, we'll get to all of that. All right. So it was a pretty interesting day, pretty interesting weekend. You know, I haven't been here since Thursday. So one of the big things is the rumor and speculation that Harrison Ford was going to be taking over the role of General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. And who the hell comes up with the name Thaddeus? Well, Stan Lee, obviously, but is that a real name? Well, General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is going to be played by the great Harrison Ford. And I'm surprised. I really am. Hey, Jeff, good to see you. I'm surprised because I figured after he was wrapping up his final Indiana Jones, he finally got to kill off Han Solo, that he'd be done with franchises, you know? You don't see him popping up in the Jack Ryan TV show. He's not, going back. Oh, he did another Blade Runner too. So he really is just kind of finishing up. I just had a hard time seeing him getting into a new franchise, especially at 80 years old. I mean, William Hurt, who played Ross in the original Hulk, or in the Incredible Hulk, and then reprised the role in Civil War, and then again in Black Widow, and I believe Endgame. No, the one before that, Infinity War. Yeah, I was really surprised by that. But Marvel's been doing that a lot lately, picking up people from Star Wars and putting them into the MCU. I mean, we had the guy that played Mr. Immortal was also the major domo in Book of Boba Fett. The guy playing Man-Thing, Kerry Jones, was playing Black Chrysanthemum in that. So I guess the whole thing now is if you're in any Disney property, you're going to, just kind of float around. It's like being in the CW. Once you work for the CW, you'll probably find another job right away in the CW. So it seems to be what it is. They went, oh, yeah, Harrison Ford. He just finished up with Indiana Jones and Star Wars. Let's go ahead and put him in as Thunderbolt Ross. But again, they're replacing a 71-year-old who passed away with an 80-year-old. That's kind of a gamble. But Jeff says, Harrison Ford leads to Wookiees. Wookiees are like Bigfoot. Obvious conclusion, $6 million man coming to the MCU. I like the way you think, Jeff. I like the connections there. Nice. So, but the interesting thing is he's confirmed to show up in Captain America: New World Order. So, will he be in the Thunderbolts? Maybe. We're still trying to figure out who all is going to be in the Thunderbolts. I don't think we've seen the full lineup for the Thunderbolts. I think there may be a couple more surprises. We'll have to see. I mean, will Tim Roth Abomination pop up there? I think it's possible now with the way She-Hulk ended, which we're going to talk about in just a few moments. But yeah, I find it interesting because I couldn't see Harrison Ford jumping in the role. So when the rumors came out, I was like, no, I can't see that. I mean, I could see him playing the part, but and are they going to make it Red Hulk? And if so, is he going to do the motion capture stuff? I mean, the guy broke his leg walking through the Millennium Falcon, or his ankle. Do we really want to put him in gray pajamas and have him jumping and running around on a padded floor? That seems dangerous. I'm being a little ageist here, and it's not nice. But again, I don't know. Maybe he's just all back into action films now after doing Indiana Jones. It's like, yeah, I'll play the Red Hulk. I want to be a bad guy. I never get to play a bad guy. That is, or maybe he's going to be like a lot of actors when they get older and they say, well, I took the role because my grandkids wanted me to. I could see that. Yeah, I could totally see that. So yeah, Harrison Ford joining the MCU, and it's been, the studio itself hasn't come out and said it, but last week when it was announced, it was Slash Films and stuff like that talking about it, but Deadline and Variety and Hollywood Reporter are all covering it now too. So that's when you start going, oh, it must be true. So, and speaking of Hollywood Reporter, we're going to move on to our next bit of story, which is all about DC. And it's pretty fascinating. With Dwayne Johnson pretty much saying the next Black Adam film will be Black Adam versus Superman. And spoiler, Henry Cavill back as Superman. It's been the worst kept secret I've ever seen that Cavill is back as Superman. And according to the Hollywood Reporter, they're saying that Warner Brothers is pushing forward a new Superman movie with Cavill that would essentially be Man of Steel 2. And they're looking at possibly Christopher McQuarrie to write it. Now, there's been no former offers or anything like that. This is more of them thinking. Now, McQuarrie worked with Cavill on Mission Impossible, and he's written the last few Mission Impossibles. He wrote the Jack Reacher movie and Edge of Tomorrow. He does a lot of work with Tom Cruise. Whoa, that makes me wonder if the bad guy would be Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is Brainiac. Ooh, that could be interesting. What other villain could Tom Cruise play in Superman? We've already had Zod, so it'd have to be something different. And we've had Lex. Huh. That could be interesting. Who's the guy that runs Battle World? The yellow guy. He could be cool. Anyway, so they're looking at Man of Steel 2. I don't know if that's what they'll call it, but so they've got, supposedly that's starting in the works. James Gunn has another movie in the works with them. It doesn't look like it's a sequel to Suicide Squad, and it's not The Peacemaker. It's something completely different he's pitched, but supposedly that's moving forward. Matt Reeves is just being given the keys to the city of Gotham, as not only does he have the sequel to the Batman in the works and the Penguin spinoff, but he's also going to be able to do either series or films focusing on Batman's rogues galleries, with some of the names coming up being like Scarecrow, Clayface, and the more recent Professor Pig. So looks like we're going to get a lot of Matt Reeves out of Warner Brothers. Now, I don't know if these are all going to be kept separate universes or what, because, you know, if Cavill's back and Gal Gadot is still Wonder Woman, and they're expecting a scriptment. They said the word scriptment, which I assume means it's a plot treatment or a script treatment for Wonder Woman 3 from Patty Jenkins, and that'll be Gal Gadot. So if Gal, you know, and David Zaslav has said that he wanted to get the big three out there again: Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And if it's the Robert Pattinson Batman and it's the Henry Cavill Superman and the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman, is it going to stay that way, or will we start seeing more of Ben Affleck back as Batman? Will that move forward? You know, are they going to continue those characters and just not necessarily what Zack Snyder had planned for him? Now, I'm okay with that. I thought the casting wasn't the issue why the movies underperformed. I think people just didn't want as dark of a storyline. At least some people. I know some people who love the Zack Snyder stuff. And I liked Man of Steel. Batman versus Superman was okay. Justice League, I liked the Snyder cut better. But I liked the characters. You know, I like Jason Momoa as Aquaman. And I wasn't a fan of Ezra Miller as the Flash. And also, there's supposed to be a sequel script already written for Flash. So a second Flash movie. I am really hoping that it's not Ezra Miller. I hope that they go, okay, we're done, and move on. Josh says, the DCU is falling apart anyway. James Gunn for Ambush Bug. I like that. Henry back as Superman. That's awesome. Yeah, I think the casting was good. I liked Ben Affleck as Batman, you know, but then I liked Robert Pattinson. I can't think of anybody that I really looked at and went, oh, that's a horrible Batman. I wasn't thrilled with Val Kilmer as Batman, but, you know, I think when it comes down to Batman, it's the script. The only casting, like I said, I wasn't a fan of Ezra Miller as the Flash, and I wasn't a fan as Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. But that might also have been script. You know, it just, there was issues. But then I've done an entire video on the psychology of Lex Luthor and why the movies keep getting it wrong where the TV shows get it right. You know, Clancy Brown on the animated series, Superman the animated series, Michael Rosenbaum on Smallville, and John Cryer on in the Arrowverse all did a much better job with Lex Luthor than Kevin Spacey, Jesse Eisenberg, and dare I say, Gene Hackman. Where I do love Gene Hackman's portrayal, that's not Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor's grand scheme should not be a real estate scam. And that's pretty much what it was. So, yeah. And then that Kevin Spacey was pretty much just picking up from there. Jay says, I still think Jesse was playing Alexander, his son. That's my headcanon. That kind of works. I like that. So yeah, it sounds like DC has some big plans. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, are they even going to get to all that? David Zaslav's just going to sell Warner Brothers. I don't necessarily believe that's true. You know, I mean, that's a lot of speculation. And we do tend to take speculation seriously nowadays. And sometimes it comes true, like Harrison Ford or Henry Cavill coming back. Henry Cavill. It's Cavill, right? I keep saying Cavill. It's Cavill. But I don't know. Why would they buy Warner Brothers, make all these changes, combine all these things, and then just sell it? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't see there really being a good return on investment if you pick it up and then you slash it, because it's not like they can really break it apart and sell the parts for more, because there aren't that many parts. So I'm hoping they hang on to it and David Zaslav turns it around, because I think he's making a lot of tough decisions, and they're not popular ones, but they're important ones. I think he saw something in the Batgirl movie that didn't work for him, so they killed it. So yeah, I know a lot of people are upset by the Batgirl movie, but what's funny is there's a lot of people out there going, oh, release the Batgirl movie. If it was great and was going to do big money at the box office, I think they would have released it. I think they watched it and went, oh, this is not going to do very well, so let's get the money we can get through this tax write-off instead. We don't have to put any marketing into it, and we can just get the money back, which, it was already over budget by $10 million. And there's a chance that, one of the things that's come out of all this is the former regime at Warner Brothers did not want Henry Cavill back. They had moved on. And The Rock wanted him. I mean, they really wanted him in. He really wanted him in, was fighting for him for like 6 years, he said. And it wasn't until the new regime came in that it was now possible. Well, it was hard to tell what the previous regime with Walter Hamada was trying to do. I mean, they had J.J. Abrams lined up to do a bunch of stuff, but none of that seemed to go very far. And now most of it's been canceled. A lot of the strange movies they were trying to push out got canceled as well, like the Wonder Twins. Did anybody really want to see a Wonder Twins movie? I mean, nostalgia-wise, I'm sure, but they weren't that great of characters. I mean, something created in an animated series that gets pulled into the main universe. The Wonder Twins aren't that great. If they've been, they would have been more popular. There would have been Wonder Twin comics and stuff. Harley Quinn, created in an animated series, brought into the comics, and it's gotten huge. So I think we have to accept that the Wonder Twins aren't as great as nostalgia makes us think they are. People just want to see the monkey, and I mean to spell it Cavill. Are you saying Cavill's the monkey?
I meant it's Cavill, but I spelled it Cavill.
Okay. Yeah, I need to start saying Cavill. Yeah. I don't know why I got Cavill. Okay. Like cavalry. Cavill. I'm never going to get that. So, Josh is going on here. He's got, or he could set up sweet crossovers, 90 Day Fiance from the Mascara, Dr. Midnight Pimple Popper. Josh, you need to find an artist and just do them as little one panels, comic strips, and I think they'd be very popular. You could do a few of those, you know. Yeah. Green Lantern doing remodeling. So I lost my train of thought. So yeah, Zaslav has been honest about wanting to get Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman back out there. So I could see why he's letting Matt Reeves run with it, and he's bringing back Cavill and trying to get a Man of Steel 2 going and a Wonder Woman 3 going, and, using the stars that are popular. Because it's not like people didn't like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. They didn't like the second movie. They loved the first one. They love Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Most people loved Henry Cavill as Superman. They just, the people who didn't like the story and, him killing Zod. I didn't care. I always look at it, I look at it like the original Daredevil movie. A lot of people didn't like Daredevil because he let the guy get hit by a train. Well, that's not a hero. But the whole point of the Daredevil movie is that he started off as a vigilante and ended up as a hero. So you got to let your characters grow and become the characters you want. It seems that there are certain characters people don't let that happen to. They can take, Batman's rough and he's just learning it, and he can't fight as well, or he gets his butt kicked and then he comes back, and by the end of the movie he's that guy. But Superman's got to be the guy from the whole thing. And again, Man of Steel is not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't care either way in the Zod thing. It made sense to me in the story. But him letting his dad die during a tornado made no sense at all to me. None. He can move super fast. He could have got out there, got his dad to safety, and no problem. But yeah. Jay says, you should watch the director's cut, 40% more Coolio on that one. I have seen the director's cut and like it quite a bit. I think it redeems the Daredevil movie. And then I so enjoyed watching the behind the scenes stuff where one of the producers actually tells the audience, it's nice that Mark Steven Johnson, or whatever the guy's name was, the director, got to do his director's cut, but I still think the theatrical cut is the superior one. And it's like, nobody agrees with you, buddy. Nobody. Yeah. For me, the difference between the director's cut and the theatrical release that makes the director's cut better is the scene on the roof where he's, seeing through the rain, Elektra, and all that, and there's a scream for help. And in the theatrical cut, he ignores the scream and goes and fools around with Elektra. In the director's cut, he leaves her and helps. And to me, that was what made the director's cut better, because Daredevil would go help. Electro would probably would have helped too, and then afterwards they would have fooled around. But, I mean, Matt Murdock gets plenty. Just saying. All right, guys, let's go ahead and take our first break. And when we come back, we will talk the She-Hulk finale and a little bit about the new character that was introduced. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning into The Experience. Help us out and hit subscribe over on YouTube and click the bell when you do. Need some help? Scan the QR code in the bottom corner. Who would win, Batman or Superman? It's the age-old debate, except it's so much more complicated than that. Nerd Killer Warfare every week on The Experience is your chance to debate other nerds in the questions we've all been asking for years, except we take those debates and turn them up to 11. Go to bit.ly/EXP casting or scan the QR code to be part of the show. Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Hey, Slip, Ken, good to see you guys. Welcome back to the Dan Wickline show. We were just going over the news, but whenever the break comes up, I always jump over to check the news site, see if there's anything breaking. And there is one other rumor that's been floating around, and I was hesitant to talk about it until it got picked up by, one of the more prominent sites. And this is just on Deadline. It says, speculation has been growing that Sacha Baron Cohen has entered the Marvel Cinematic Universe with a role in Marvel Studios' upcoming Disney Plus series, Ironheart, as a comic book villain. Now, sources close to production confirmed to Deadline that there has been talk on the set about Cohen being part of Ironheart, possibly playing Mephisto. Now, this is absolutely fascinating as hell. First thing, I like the casting. I really do. Because facially and look-wise, I totally can see Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto. Again, this isn't confirmed by the studio, but Deadline has their sources, so we can at least talk about it at this point. Now, why would he show up in Ironheart? Now, there's also talk about him showing up in Agatha, Coven of Chaos, which makes a lot of sense. But there's also good reason for him to show up in Ironheart. The villain of Ironheart is going to be Parker Robbins, played by Anthony Ramos from Hamilton. And Parker Robbins is also known as the Hood, the villain who gets a hood and a cloak, boots and a cloak that are actually made by Mephisto. So Ironheart is going to pit magic magic and supernatural versus science, which I think is awesome because Marvel usually pits equal powers. You know, Ant-Man versus Yellow Jacket, Super Soldier versus Super Soldier, Iron armored person versus Iron armored person down the line. So I think it's awesome that they're going to do something as different as science versus supernatural magic. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that Mephisto would pop up in Ironheart because that's where the hood and boots come from, and then it would make a lot of sense in the Agatha Harkness story because the character is part of the Agatha Harkness series or history. So yeah, but Sacha Baron Cohen. I think the problem is that we only think of him as a comedic actor, as Borat and all those other roles that he's played. But you got to remember, some of our best dramatic actors have been the comedic ones, the guys that can do both. Think about some of the roles that Robin Williams pulled off. I mean, Dead Poets Society, Good Morning Vietnam, Patch Adams. He brought the humor, but he also brought the angst and stuff. So yeah, I think it's an interesting casting, and if it does come to fruition, I think it's a great casting. Plus he's willing to work in makeup and all that stuff, so no problem getting him into the whole red look, and yeah, I like it. I think that actually is a pretty interesting and cool casting. Jay says the Marvel Max trade, the Hood Blood from Stones was amazing. Yeah. HR says Rod Steiger. Okay. Hey, Lyle. Hey, HR. Ed says, don't forget creepy Robin Williams in 1 hour photo. The movie didn't do well, but I also thought that was one of his better acting roles. Also, isn't there a movie he did called Insomnia with like Al Pacino set up in an Alaskan town during the where it's all daylight and stuff? Yeah. Slipknot says, I'm familiar with Mephisto, but I just checked some of the art and he looks like Willem Dafoe in some depictions. Yeah, he does have a very long face, so that's why I thought Cohen was a good choice for that. Mephisto is pretty much Marvel's Satan. He's like Satan light. He's not full on Satan because they don't want to get into God and stuff, but he's pretty much the devil. Or very, I mean, there's been a few like Belasco and Blackheart and stuff like that, but Mephisto's the big one, and he's been around a long time and took on a lot of different Marvel characters. I mean, yeah, the obvious ones of Doctor Strange and stuff like that, but he's the one that undid Spider-Man's marriage. He took on Daredevil for a while. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting character that pops up. Is Trigon DC's version of Satan? I think he's more just of a demonic character. Maybe. I mean, I could see it. But yeah. Maybe. I think the connections are there, but I don't think they've gone into it fully to make it 100% match. Where Mephisto is pretty much Marvel's Satan. So, but yeah, that would be pretty big casting news too. So, all right, let's go ahead and talk She-Hulk. This episode, I loved it watching it. And then I felt kind of mixed about it after. But maybe not for the reasons that people might think. this is as close to the John Byrne run as you could get for a season finale. Jay, can you put the little spoiler thing up here, just in case anybody hasn't seen the finale? I don't think we need to do the big roll, but if we could put the spoiler logo up there. They pick up from the last one where Jen gets arrested and is put into the same cell it looked like that Blonsky had been in. And she has to make a deal to get out so that nobody would press charges, that they wouldn't press charges. She had to wear an inhibitor and wouldn't be able to be She-Hulk anymore. And she ends up losing her job because she's not a superhero anymore. And she the face of a super, legal defense. And she loses her apartment because she doesn't have the job, has to move back in with her parents. And it really is just her life all falling apart. And she even calls that out by saying, is this what you guys want? I mean, it's, this isn't really a reluctant superhero story. This is her just getting screwed over. And that's pretty much what it was. And they continue the story. Nikki figures out a way using old embarrassing videos of Jen that her mom gave her to get in good with the Hulk King and get invited to a big meeting. And then she realizes, well, she can't go as a girl, so she gets Pug to go. And that's when we find out all this stuff that, Todd is the Hulk King and he started the intelligentsia. And I wonder how much of that is true, because the intelligentsia is bigger in the Marvel comics than just a bunch of bros, But, Jen needs to get away, so she goes to Emil's place, and it turns out the intelligentsia is having a meeting there. And it's all, you're watching this whole thing, and it feels very convenient, Like all this stuff is just coming together. And Slip, he says, I haven't been watching She-Hulk, but I did see the short fight with Hulk and a bomb. A lot of people were unhappy that it wasn't a huge brawl. Yeah, and I'm going to get to that because I think that's part of what's important. They started kitchen sinking the finale. Everybody bringing everybody together. Titania shows up for no apparent reason, and you can't tell which side she's on. Blonsky's there, and as Abomination, and then Hulk just shows up, and Todd takes the blood, synthesizes Jen's blood and turns himself into a Hulk, and there's all this going on, and she just looks at the camera. She's like, "Is this what you guys want? This is a ridiculous ending. It's not, And that's when they do what makes the episode brilliant. Is she breaks the fourth wall literally, and we suddenly end up on the Disney Plus screen, and she pops out of her own little window and climbs into the Marvel Assembled window to go talk to the writers. Now, that is 100% the John Byrne run. I mean, there were times that She-Hulk talked to the creative team. It's kind of what this character does. It's like Deadpool, but way before Deadpool ever did it. Or it's like, back when Grant Morrison was doing Animal Man, and he got into an argument with the creator. And she points out a lot of interesting stuff, is that they were trying to do a Marvel ending. And now, according to Jessica Gao and Tatiana Maslany, they were trying to do this standard Marvel type ending. And it wasn't working. And it just kept not working. And they finally went, and they filmed one. So she said, Gao says she wrote 20 different versions of the season finale. Tatiana said that she knows of 2. the one they showed and the one they filmed but didn't use. And the one they filmed was okay, but it was kind of following the standard Marvel formula. And Kevin Smith is like, well, nothing about this show is the normal Marvel formula, so why are you following it at the ending? And that's when the whole idea of the AI Kevin shows up and just changing things. And again, I think it was the perfect ending for this series. You know, she got to make the story about her, which the series is supposed to be about her. You know, we've seen that in too many of these shows where it all goes off, the finale all goes off into a big spectacle, you know. WandaVision was about grief, but they had a big battle at the end. The Moon Knight was all about the split personalities and stuff like that, but they have a big battle at the end. So She-Hulk was going in that direction and stopped and went, no, this is supposed to be about Jen coming to terms with becoming She-Hulk, and it's a little lawyer drama, and it shouldn't be a big battle at the end. It doesn't work for this series. So that's why, I mean, it wasn't the original ending. They reshot the ending, and they ended up with this. And I think it works great for this show. Now, they didn't do what normally you would do in something like this, where you would jump back to a certain point and kind of replay, and you'd show different versions of scenes. But because they didn't plan it ahead, they didn't shoot those scenes at the time. So basically, they just changed Todd back to human, and they took Hulk out of the thing, and they ended with Todd being arrested and all of this going on. And it got a little vague because I'm not sure what Todd was being arrested for. I could see him being sued, stuff like that, but Todd was arrested. And, you know, we ended up with just this very, you know, Jen gets what she wants. Emil goes back to prison because he's been transforming into Abomination. And Todd gets arrested, and Matt Murdock shows up, and just down the line, everything works out how it's supposed to. You know, and she gets cleared of charges. And again, I think it makes a lot of sense. And we get to tease the whole Marvel formula. They get to make some jokes at Marvel's expense. Even the AI has the baseball cap like visor on. So there was a lot of stuff there, meta stuff. But again, that's what She-Hulk is. Now, I finished watching it and just absolutely loved it. And then I started thinking about the ramifications of the series, because all of these shows are interconnected. You know, they don't stand alone. So when you do something like that, you have to start going, well, wait a minute. Does that mean the intelligentsia is just this little, you know, group of bros? Or is it, you know, the leader and all this other stuff like it is in the comics? What happened to the blood? Did they not get the blood? Did they get the blood and synthesize it, but Todd didn't take it? What happened to all of that? So now there's these lingering questions that didn't get answered because they did the flip back, which that bugs me a little bit, because so now it's just kind of, okay, so what does that all mean? You know, what did happen and what didn't happen? Did any of that happen? You know, how much did she take back? And can she do that ongoing now? You know, is that just part of who she is? You know, could she have, had she been around for Endgame and the snap happened, or Infinity War and the snap happened, could she have went, no, that shouldn't have happened. We're the heroes. We're supposed to win, and go back and change it? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's all going to be self-contained into She-Hulk series. But there are some questions left lingering. And then, of course, we got the new ending that had this very Fast and Furious family vibe where they're all sitting around having a cookout. And, Matt Murdock's there. And now it's like, wait, are they dating? Is there something serious going on there? But that's fine. But then Hulk shows up. And this is still supposed to be, okay, we're kind of taking this as a silly series. And we get introduced to his son, Scar, who is a major interesting character. Has done a lot of things in the comics, which I'm going to give you a brief rundown on in a minute. But, so yeah, I think the finale was perfect for the series. But I question how it fits into the MCU as a whole. So, I don't know. What did you guys think? Did you like the finale? Did you get to watch it? But I did promise that I would go into a little bit about Scar. For those of you who don't know who Scar is, he was introduced in World War Hulk #5, all the way back in November of 2007. He's created by Greg Pak and John Romita Jr., and he's the son of the Hulk and Kira, who's known as the Old Strong. And this was pretty much someone that helped Hulk defeat the Red King, and she became his bride, and there was kind of a live happily ever after. This is great, except it wasn't, because after a while, the ship that had carried him to Sakaar that the Illuminati had put him on suddenly exploded, killing Kira. Now, Hulk assumed it was the Illuminati who did it, and we find out later on it wasn't. But he then hops on a ship and shoots back to take on the Illuminati for killing the woman he loved. Ed says, the last episode, while entertaining, was a bit irritating too. It was similar to, it was all a dream scenario that I hate with a passion when movies do that. So are we still expecting to see the leader at some point, or was that all tossed out the window with her change in the ending? I was left confused and a little annoyed. We will be seeing the leader. He's going to be in Captain America New World Order, so he is definitely coming back. But will he be tied to the intelligentsia? I don't know. I thought he was going to be. I thought we'd get a sneak peek of him at the end. But instead, the end, all we got was Wong getting Blonsky out of prison, which does free him up to be in Thunderbolts. Just saying. Triple B says he thought it was a pretty good ending. Yeah. Like I said, I think it fit the series, but yeah, I could also see it being annoying to people who are taking the series very seriously, and these were things that were happening in the MCU. So, okay, so when Kira gets killed, a cocoon of her, she was pregnant at the time, a cocoon drops into the lake of fire, like you do, which contains Scar, and he ends up emerging from the lake, and he's already a young boy. He's not an infant at that point. So he grows very quickly. A year later, he looks like an adult, and he gets rescued by the Shadow People at first, and that's where he gets the tattoos from. But then from them, he gets rescued by old Sam, who is one of the Warbound, who then tries to raise him and teach him. And, he gets caught up in the whole politics of the planet, going after Axeman Bone, and fighting him and his dragons just with a single sword. And so it's pretty impressive. But he gets into this thing where he learns the old power, which I'll explain in a minute, depending on how much time I have. But there's a storyline that involves a Silver Surfer coming to Scar and trying to save it. And Scar is given the option, which is shown how to use the old power to save the planet and get everybody off, because Galactus is coming. Is going to eat the planet. So he's shown how to evacuate everybody. But instead, all Scar wants is revenge, and he ignores it. He doesn't do that. He ends up trying to basically destroy the planet. And then when Silver Surfer stops that and tries to cast him through a wormhole, the last thing he does is he feeds some of the old power to Galactus, which just makes him crave more, and then leaves. So Scar doesn't come across as a nice guy. I wouldn't worry this series is made for people who don't take the MCU very seriously. That's true. Now on Earth, there's a lot going on. He wants to fight his father, but he wants to fight the Planet Hulk version of Hulk. He doesn't want to fight Savage Hulk, which is this basic dumb version, and he doesn't want to fight Banner by himself because there's a point where he's just Banner. So, but he gets caught up in these things, and he keeps doing the wrong thing and not helping people. And every opportunity he has to be a hero, he passes on it. So he ends up hooking up with Banner, who has lost the ability to be Hulk, and Banner tries to train him, and tries to teach him and stuff like that. Is this the Hulk Scar subplot leading forward to a new solo Hulk movie? It's possible. The problem is that I don't think it'll be a solo Hulk movie, in that I think it'll be something more like, I don't think we'll get World War Hulk. I think we're more likely to get World War Hulks, which is a more recent series, which is basically all of these Hulks and the leader and turning people into gamma mutates, stuff like that. So it'd be a big CGI project, definitely. But it's more recent, and it involves Scar, and involves Red Hulk, Red She-Hulk, all these other characters. So I think that's more likely the way they're going to go. Scar's mom is Kyra from Sakaar. So when Hulk was a gladiator on Sakaar, she was another warrior who basically the two of them, along with a bunch of other gladiators, took over and killed the Red King and took over the planet. So again, because they used Planet Hulk, part of the Planet Hulk plot in Thor Ragnarok, and then they sent him back without the whole marrying and falling in love and all that, it's hard to do World War Hulk. So it's more likely they're going to do the Hulk story, which explains why they needed She-Hulk and Abomination back and all this other stuff, because they need all these gamma mutates for that story. So if there's going to be a solo Hulk movie, I think that's what it's going to be. So keep an eye out for that. I think that's more likely where they're going to go. Because, I don't think they can. I think we're already past the point, because it wasn't the Illuminati that sent Hulk into space. He did it to himself. So, there's no impetus for him to rage on the world and become the world breaker. So, Jay says, I hope they bring in A-Bomb. I could see them going that route. We could end up with an entire pantheon of gamma mutates. The Amadeus Cho and stuff like that. So we'll have to see how that works out, but I could see them going that direction. And I think that would also be a good finale for Mark Ruffalo. If they want to move on from him. There's also, someone brought this up on Popco the Writers, but I've been thinking about this too, is they could also go a different way. They could be using Scar as sort of a replacement for Hulkling in the Young Avengers, because Hulkling is actually a Kree Skrull offspring. He's from both. He's a cross of both races. But the problem is that the way they're doing the Kree and the Skrull in the MCU doesn't necessarily fit to have the Prince, a Hulkling character. So they could be using him as a replacement for Hulkling in the Young Avengers. Ed says the best part of that last episode was Kevin and see you on the big screen. And Jen's like, really? And he's like, no. Yeah, that was pretty funny. I loved her asking about the X-Men. So I thought that was good. And I did love seeing Daredevil just pop up at the end for no apparent reason. Slip says, I would have preferred Wolverine versus Hulk instead. Wolverine in Deadpool 3. Yeah. We could get Scar versus Daken, which happens in the comics. So you got Wolverine's son and Hulk's son. By the way, for anybody who is picking on the poor guy's haircut, keep in mind who the barber was on Sakaar. The guy that gave Thor his haircut, played by Stan Lee, with that weird tool. Do you think he gave anybody a good haircut? Anybody? Yeah. That's the barber of Sakaar. So when you see that bad haircut, if they recast Wolverine, we might still see Wolverine Hulk at some point. That's true. There's always that possibility. And that would be a great fight scene. I'd love to see that. I mean, I had that comic as a kid. I got that when I was a kid. I still have it. Wolverine or Hulk 181, where Wolverine was first introduced. And I would love to see them do that on the big screen. Plus, then we get the Wendigo, and that's a fun character, too. Yeah, that was a great Stan Lee cameo. Some of his cameos were kind of, okay, yeah, he's just in the background. Oh, yeah. But others like that, or him being the security guard in Captain America, and he actually gets a line, I think those are better. So I like when Stan actually got to talk, and or him being the DJ in Deadpool. I thought that was great, too, at the strip club. So, all right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up there. I will be back tomorrow, and we will talk about Rings of Power. And if I can get it watched, we'll talk about the latest episode of Quantum Leap, which I believe is supposed to have a big twist in it. So, Ed says, I enjoyed the one he did in Venom 2. Yeah. Ed says, my favorite Stan Lee cameo was when he was the librarian in Amazing Spider-Man. That was good, too. So, all right, guys. Tonight we've got Minute to Skim It and in stores this week. So I'll be back with Jay and Kyle to talk comic books tonight. And Miss Jen will be going over books, too. So if you want to know what you should pick up this week, check out those two shows. And we will see you all tomorrow. Have a great night.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.